let's roll on. So we're going to introduce Gadi. He's going to come into the stage. He's a product director over at Wise, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. So let's round of applause for Gadi as he joins the stage. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming here today. I'm very happy to be here. First conference in 3 years due to the pandemic, and also Budapest is a city I've visited many, many times when I was a teenager. My father used to live here. Haven't been here for a long time, so it's great to be here again. What are we going to talk about today? I'd like to talk to you. We are in an impact conference, so about how to drive growth of your product through delighting customers. Before we do that, a few words about myself. I'm a product director at Wise for the last 3 years. I'll introduce Wise in a second. I'm 15 years in product management. As you can probably hear from my accent, I'm from Israel originally, but living in London in the last 9 years. And maybe to put something a little bit more personal about myself, we use the theme that I'm going to talk about, growth and delight. And this is one of my hobbies. I grow flowers. These are my flowers. I'm very proud of them. And I grow them, and they bring me delight. So this is how it is connected to the theme, and I will use it a little bit later in the talk. Another thing that I would like to talk to you about is Wise. How many people here heard about Wise? Okay, pretty good. How many people here use Wise? Also pretty good. For those who do not know it, Wise is basically the solution for the fragmented international banking. If you want to move money between countries and between currencies, we believe that we are the best solution. But the best way to explain how we do it and why, and what is the problem, is to talk about the story of our founders. On the right, you see Christo, who is the CEO, and on the left, Tavet. And they are both from Estonia. They both lived in London 12 years ago, and they had a coincidence. Christo had a mortgage to pay in Estonia, but he got paid in pounds, so he needed to move pounds to Estonia every month. And Tavet had the other option, problem. He had income from Estonia. He wanted to bring it into the UK where he lived, right? So when Christo went to the bank, he found out that he's going to pay for £1,000, around £50 of basically fees, and that will take around a week to get to Estonia. Then they met, and they said, hey, we're doing this right now. We're trying to pay pounds into the EU and euro into the UK. Why won't we just do that? So instead of we pay the banks, Christo will pay £1,000 to Tavet, and Tavet will move, well, back then more than 11.50, but the pound is a pound, to Christo's account in the EU. Money will not move between borders. You don't have to pay to the banks, and there's a solution. Then you take the solution and you scale it. They are both entrepreneurs, so they raised some funds and started doing this. And eventually, right now, Wise is a company of 4,000 employees, 13 million customers, moving 100 billion pounds around the world, around more than 1% of the total volume of consumers. And eventually, our mission is bigger than just like making it cheaper. This is our mission: money without borders, instant, convenient, transparent, and eventually free. And we are dead serious about this. Every time we have the opportunity, we reduce the price. Anything that we do is connected to any of those pillars of the mission. But we have extended beyond basically sending money. And now our proposition is you can send money with us, you can receive, so you can have bank details in 10 different currencies. You can hold money in 53 different currencies. And you can also spend with a card, which covers a lot of use cases for what we call international people that need international banking. If any of you has any financial affair in two countries, you know how difficult it is. And hopefully with us, it's easier. So that is about Wise, but we're here to talk about how we drive growth by delight. So let's start with our goal, growth. And before I go and speak a little bit more, I have a question for you. What is the difference, in your opinion, between a good product and a great product? One by one, not all of you together. Anyone wants to give a shot and think what he thinks that the difference is between a great product and a good product? Yes. Experience. What do you mean? Great experience. So in great product you have great experience, and in good product you have okay experience. Very good. Very interesting. Anyone else? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I kind of, the context gives the answer, right? So let's park it for a second, and I have another question for you. Who knows which movie this picture is taken from? Fight Club. Who saw Fight Club here? Okay, great. My wife told me that nobody would see Fight Club, and I'm too old for that, but I find that this is wrong. She was wrong. Great. So I have a question for all of you that have seen Fight Club, and what is the first rule of Fight Club? You do not talk about Fight Club, right? What is the second rule of Fight Club? You do not talk about Fight Club. And why is that? So to give some context to this, Tyler Durden, basically the character here that is played by Brad Pitt, is actually running a revolution. He's convincing people that don't have anything to lose that the best way for them to do is to fight each other and have fun out of like hitting each other almost to death. And they get a lot of fun out of it. And eventually his goal is to basically revolutionize the world and fight against the consumption-based society that we have, right? So he's doing something illegal. So he doesn't want it to spread too much. But what he knows, and this is why he says you do not talk about Fight Club, is even though he says that, people will talk about Fight Club. And why is that? Because they have fun, right? So he basically talks us about the power of word of mouth. The best way for you to grow your product is for people to talk about it. If it's good enough, they will talk about it. And if they will talk about it, more and more people will see it, and it's going to be exponential. More and more people eventually will bring you to the product. The companies that are right now world dominators, like Facebook and Google and Amazon, did not spend any money on marketing in the first few years. Everything was word of mouth. At Wise, 70% of our growth is word of mouth. If we shut down all our marketing, we're still going to grow 70% of what we grow right now. And this is because people talk about our product. So let's go back to this. Now we know that we want to get to growth. And the best way to get to growth is for people to talk about the product is word of mouth. But what drives word of mouth? Well, this is the question I asked in the beginning, and some people gave a good answer. There could be other answers, by the way. It's my definition for a great product. But a great product is a product that people talk about. And they talk about it, and this is why they grow. But what makes a product great? So the outcome is they talk about it. What makes it great? So remember those flowers. They bring me a lot of delight, and this is why I talk about them here in a conference, right? I actually found yesterday somebody put a note on our fence. Thank you for growing those flowers for everyone to see it. I was like so delighted with this, right? And actually, the same happens with the people that are going to Fight Club. For some reason, an awkward reason that we do not understand as regular people, those people are fighting each other almost to death and having fun and enjoying it, right? They're having so much fun that they have to speak with other people about this. They are delighted. So if you go back, the way to grow your product is to have word of mouth. The way to have your word of mouth is to have a great product. The best way to have great product is to delight customers. And then my question is, how do you delight customers? And for this, I have basically two options. Many people think, because of companies like Apple, that the best way to delight customers is having a very aesthetic, beautiful experience, right? But actually, they're pretty wrong with this. The reason that Apple, for example, are successful is also because they're beautiful. This is not the main reason. And it's not a product talk if I don't show any kind of framework or like something that you can use after that. So here's one of them. I'm sure that you all heard of Maslow's pyramid of needs, and there is an alternative or a version of that that is about user needs, that is done by Aaron Walter. And basically it says, well, the thing at the top, pleasure, is the one that you need to have in the end, right? First, it needs to be functional. So if it doesn't work, you're not going to use it, right? It needs to be reliable, which means it works every time that you do it. It needs to be usable, so it's going to be easy for you to understand how to use, and you're not going to get stuck. And only in the end, it should be pleasurable. And none of this says that pleasurable means it should be beautifully appealing or aesthetic. Of course, it's not like we shouldn't, but you can indulge and you can delight customers with other ways, not only by the aesthetics. Well, how many here are product managers? So we, product managers, know how to kind of like improve our product, right? We go to our customers and we ask them, and then we get a list of things that we need to do, and we prioritize based on impact or based on how many people are doing it, right? But most of us are mainly asking one question, like, what's wrong? How can we improve? What makes your product not good enough for you to use, or you're not happy with, right? With something. And this is pretty good. You need to do that, but that won't bring you growth by itself. I'll take an example of NPS. It's a very basic tool that a lot of people are using for prioritizing new features or new things that you need to build. And in NPS, for those who do not know that, NPS, you have one question. You ask, how likely are you to recommend this product to friends and family? And you can give a score between 0 and 10. 0 and 6 are detractors. 9 and 10 are promoters. You take the number of promoters, you deduct the number of detractors, and divide by the number of people, and you get a score between 0, or minus 100 to 100. If everybody is recommending you, you'll get 100. If nobody recommends you, you'll get minus 100. If you have 50 people recommending you and 50 not recommending you, you'll end up with 0. Okay? A good NPS score for most companies are around 20 or 30. At Wise, if it goes below 70, we are worried. Now, most people ask those people, what are you going to do to make your product better, right? And that is good. We need to do that because mainly a lot of that will tell you whether it's functional or not. But that is not enough. You need to talk to those people. Those people will tell you why they're so happy with your product and so delightful that they actually talk to somebody else about it. And this is how you're going to find out what are the things that you need to do to make more of those people, or make those people become those people, right? So, another last framework I promised to you. If you work only on the basic expectations of people, which is basically what the people that are unhappy are going to tell you, you're going to have diminishing returns. There's definitely in the beginning, if it's not functional, you have to do it, right? But at some point, you'll get to a point where the more you work, the less you see impact. Whereas on delight, you see the other way around. If you work more of them, there'll be more and more people that are going to talk about your product, and eventually more and more people are going to use it, and you see more and more growth. And I'll try to, well, and basically what we want to get is this wow effect. The wow effect is where you sit in front of something or stand and see, wow, that was great. And I'm going to talk to somebody. I need to speak to somebody about this. I need to tell someone. That is a basic human need, to share good experiences. So for me, there are two only, well, maybe not only, but that's in my experience, two ways to delight customers. The first one is to far exceed user expectation. Not meet them, not be a little bit ahead of them, far, far exceed them, and I'll give one example for this. The other option is to provide customers with a need that they didn't even think about. That is when a lot of magic happens. But I'd like to share here some of our experience at Wise, and basically show you how those two things happen in two different occasions that personally I was involved in, so I feel comfortable to speak about and not brag with something that somebody else was doing. There are at least one person in the audience that knows about that. So the example on how to far exceed user expectation, We'll start with high amount transfers. And what is high amount transfer? At Wise, you can send between a penny and £5 million. We define high amount as something above $100,000. And right now you can send by yourself without any involvement from our side, 5 million. If you want to send 20 million, that's possible, but you'll have to speak to somebody in our team. And basically, what's the difference between sending £50 and £50,000 or 100 and 100,000? And basically, there is a difference. One thing that we need to do is a very well-known term in the industry, in the financial industry, is know your customers, KYC. That is to keep all of us safe and to prevent money laundering and any kind of financial crime and activity. And that is pretty friction-full. So if you send £50, there's a lower chance we're going to ask you questions. If you send 5 million, there's a very high chance we need to ask you questions. In between, it depends on you and how much money you sent, and I can't share more details. But basically, we will need to ask you not only for where the money is from, but also evidence for this. So can you, if you say, I earn enough money to send £50,000, say, fine. So can you provide us with your salary, your pay slips? Or can you give us your bank statement to see that the money has actually arrived from where you say it has arrived, from Wise or from any company that you work in? Or if you sold your house, can you show us the contract for selling the house? So imagine you want to send money. Now you need to find these documents. You need to upload the documents. Somebody needs to check the documents and come back to say to you, yeah, that's okay, you can move forward, right? Pretty frictionful. Now, we had a queue of 5 days. So you would give the money and wait 5 days for us to tell us whether the money is legit or not, right? Now, when you wait five days for £100 that you send, you're sad. But when you send £100,000, you do not sleep at night, okay? And that is barely what happens. Like, this is exactly what happens. This is not like, I don't know how many of you sent a large amount, but you do not sleep at night. People send their lifetime savings. They sold their house. And the most scary thing is that you don't see anything on our website. You saw that the money has arrived, and then it disappears into a black hole, and you're like, where is my money? So we had a queue of 5 days, and we knew that the expectation of customers are 3 days, because this is basically what we communicated to them, right? At what point do you think we should have, and basically we saw that if we're not going to do anything, this is going to go to 7 days and eventually 10 days, because there's more demand than what we can cope with. The capacity of our KYC agents is not big enough. So what we had to do is close the service. Okay, that's a mistake I shouldn't have had here over there. It's close the service, okay? So we did not allow customers to send high amounts from most of the countries in the world besides the UK for quite a long time. Because we said if you cannot cope with demand, it's better to close demand and then fix our capacity before we reopen it. Better not to serve customers, better for them to go somewhere else than having a horrible experience and say, I will never use Wise again, and not only will I not recommend it, I will recommend not to use it because I had so much stress on, and maybe I lost the house that I wanted to buy, etc., etc. And this proved to reopen that much more difficult than you expected. So this is what people saw, like more or less. You can't send money with us. It depends on the currency. It was different amounts, but basically they could not do that. And again, we had a queue of 5 days. At what point do you think we should have opened that to the public if their expectation is 3 days? So our expectation was 3 days, and we opened it only when we had hit what we called internally backlog 0. Only when we had idle agents saying, I don't have any work to do right now. And again, the idea is, if you have an expectation of 3 days, and we disappointed people for so long, let's make them very happy with giving them a much better experience. And this is what happened to our NPS. So you can see here that we shut down the service in May. NPS was low for Wise, 40. And then it went up and went up and went up to a very good place. Then we opened Dollar You can see US dollar, and you can see it went down again, but then we had to kind of calibrate again our agents and our product, and eventually opened it again. And the result was 65% increase, growth year on year. So we shut down the service, and we had a higher growth. How come? How come we have fewer people coming in and still growing? And the only reason for that could be word of mouth, because it cannot be repeat usage. People are not saying, oh, this is such a great service, I'm going to sell my house again. It's an amazing service. I'll ask my second grandmother to die, so I'll get the inheritance. It doesn't work like that. People do that once in their lifetime, maybe once every few years. What they do is they talk about it with their friends and colleagues and recommend them to use a service that provides them moving $300,000 or pounds in less than 1 day, which is something that nobody else is doing across countries. So this is the result of exceeding users' expectation. Let me walk you through another example, and that is about providing customers something that they did not expect. And this is about refunding customers. This is our mission, just to remind you: money without borders, instant, convenient, transparent, and as I said, we are dead serious about eventually free. Probably will never get to eventually free because, there's cost, but we always do cost plus. Whenever we reduce the cost, we reduce the price. And this is what we call internally Mission Zero. And this is, for example, our price in the last few months. You can see sometimes it goes up because we have higher cost and we have to accommodate with this. But whenever we have the chance, we reduce the price. And my team and I had the luxury of being in many of those parts, but one of them that I want to speak about is in what happened in Q4 in 2020 when we reduced the price with one of the initiatives that we had. The initiative itself doesn't matter because we're not going to go into the detail, but we were able to reduce the price. But we had a mistake, and we did not launch this new feature on iOS. Now, any of you that works with mobile apps know that if you miss a release, you have to wait 2 weeks for this to go again to another review with Apple. So we had 2 weeks where people did not get the lower price that they were supposed to get. Now, they didn't know they were supposed to get a lower price. Nobody told them about that. It's not our obligation. If we increase the price, we have to inform them. But if we reduce the price, that's on us. That's okay. So we said, okay, what should we do? But honestly, it's not fair to discriminate people just because they have iPhone and not Android. So what we said is we're going to refund all of them. And we had a list of dozens of thousands of customers that made any kind of transfer in those 2 weeks, and we refunded all of them. A lot of work inside, a lot of operational work, a lot of analytics work. But let's talk about the customers. Some of them got £100 back, which is amazing, right? They send based on, you saw the price, they send a large amount of a few dozen of thousands of customers. But most customers got £10, and most customers actually got something like this, okay? They sent £100 or £500, and the fee was less than £1, and we paid them back this. To our great surprise, what made the biggest impact was actually the people that got this. So this is one tweet that we saw on a 0.08 refund. I don't care if this is a PR, just brilliant, love this over-the-top transparency. Another one is TransferWise, back then we were called TransferWise, you're awesome. And the most important one that I want to show today is this. Your bank would never. What would your bank never do? Refund you, but more that, be fair with you, okay? People do not trust their banks, and they assume that any kind of financial service is there to read them off. And when we said providing an unexpected need, we do not talk about refund. The need is trust. And this is probably one of our biggest elements that drives our growth and our word of mouth. People trust us because we are transparent and because we are fair with them. And they will stay with us even if sometimes we increase the price because they say this is a fair company and they treat my money in a fair way. So, summing up 40, it wasn't 40, it was 27 minutes in 40 seconds. I'll try to do that so you get some takeaway. If you want to drive growth, the best way to drive growth is word of mouth, is that people talk about your product. The best way to get to word of mouth is build a great product. The best way to build a great product is to delight customers, and there are two ways to delight customers. Either you far exceed their expectations, or you provide an experience that they didn't expect. How do you find out about this? Talk to those people, but not only with them. Talk also with those people that are happy, and don't think that they are okay because they're happy, you don't need to speak with them anymore. They are the drivers of your growth. And then you'll find out some weird things that delights them. Maybe they like to have, hit each other, or they like to grow flowers. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that. I really love this concept of like growing your company through delight, right? I think that's what we should all be doing, delighting our users, exceeding to expectations. Now, we have Slide It Up. We're going to answer a couple of questions. We do have some minutes for that. We do have one, which is, are there more ways to measure word of mouth? I mean, talking to your users, I guess. What other ways would you suggest to measure word of mouth?
Is it about measuring word of mouth or finding drivers for word of mouth? If it's about measurement, if I understand this correctly, then that is a very difficult thing to do. But what you can do is basically anything that is unexplained should probably go into word of mouth. If you can understand last click attribution of marketing and first click attribution, then you deduct it from the growth that you see. And you take other initiatives that you believe have any kind of impact of that. Eventually you end up with something that is unexplained. Another thing that we do is how much of it is organic. So you look at the ratio of people that come to our website that wrote wise instead of just like cheap way to move money. And the last bit is by basically extrapolation. You do something, I'll give an example of what we did with the high amount. We knew that high amount cannot grow by repeat usage. We have data for this also, but it just doesn't make sense. Those customers are not going to just move more money. They do it only when they need to. And you saw, we could see that there are more and more customers coming from the markets that we are still open. All of that together gives you an assessment. It will never be super accurate and super concrete.
Thank you. And I'm actually a loyal customer of Wise, so thank you for kind of providing these amazing experiences. All right. Another question we have here, in your refund case, besides some user feedback, how did you know you succeeded? Did you improve any metrics? How did you get the buy-in of executives?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. So we don't need a metric to be fair with our customers. That's the point. We're not moving something for ourselves, we're moving something for the customers, so we don't expect to see an immediate return. We want to be fair with them. And there's no need at Wise to justify something like this. It's a very bottom-up company. And once you decide that you want to do something for a customer, I don't think anyone's going to stop you, especially in those kind of events where you basically say, mea culpa, we did something wrong and we have to take care of this. I'll just give another example. A year and a half ago, we had a much bigger problem when, because of a glitch, people were supposed to send some money, and instead of sending what they wanted to send, the amount, we either sent the default of £1,000 or euro or dollar that we have in our system, or worse, all their money in their balance. Okay, so imagine you want to pay, I want to pay Jose £50 and you get 34,000. And then we thought about it and say, if I were in those people's shoes, what would I expect to do first? I would say, I want my money back, right? The first thing we did is pay back all those people and then chase the money, okay? And this is how, if you have a glitch of 2 days and then the money is back, you keep your trust. If you say, well, we're first going to find out whether we can recover this money and then we'll think of a compensation, this is where you say, thank you very much, and I'm going to start looking for alternatives. So, in fact, if you want to delight customers, don't think of how much you're going to get from that. Think of them first.
And the trust is super important, right? Like you have to continue to kind of build that relationship and that trust. Next question: How do you find something unexpected if people cannot talk about it because it is unexpected?
It is unexpected, so you stumble upon them. I don't have a recipe to find unexpected things. I think if you think of your customers and if you think what they want, and then you try to impress them, you will eventually hit those kind of things. In the financial industry, trust is a big issue, and transparency is a big issue. So there's a lot about that. But I can't have, like, it's unexpected, right? So for us, we didn't expect to have those kind of like messages on Twitter and social networks. We were quite surprised by this. We just thought that we were doing the right thing, like paying back customers that money that we shouldn't have got in the beginning.
So just keeping your eyes and ears open and continue to know your customer over time, you'll probably stumble to some of these things and then surface them, I guess.
You can also listen, like if you speak to customers and you see, like on different channels, and you see, or you do surveys and you talk to them in interviews, you'll get insights, right? And those insights will help you to find those kind of things. It's easier to exceed expectations because there are expectations, right? And that's a classic situation. Say 3 days, we'll do it in 0 days. We know, for example, that it takes around 2 days. Sometimes it takes 3 months, but 2 days to open a business account. You do it twice in half an hour. So that is like something that we can relate to. But the unexpected thing is unexpected. So if anyone has a recipe, I'd love to hear about this.
Me too, by the way. All right. I like this next one. What are your favorite flowers?
Oh, my favorite flowers. Oh, wow. Okay. I have a few. So I grow sunflowers, which are right now 2 meter high, and surprisingly, they still grow in October. I didn't expect that. It was like something unexpected. And I like delphinium. They are perennial, so they come back every year, and they grow in different sizes. And those are my 2 favorite ones that I grow. Oh, and of course, I have like daffodils and anything that grows you put a bulb and they grow is for me magic. Very easy, by the way. Just put it in and do nothing. All the rest is quite a lot of work. I can talk more about this if you want after that.
Nice. All right. I like this one as well. Have you considered other metrics beside NPS? This is a common one.
For what? For satisfaction of users, or for?
I would assume so. Yeah. So for satisfaction.
Yeah, NPS is so. NPS is good and bad. I think it's very easy to get hooked on it. There's definitely input over there. On satisfaction, if you want to understand something more specific, I would recommend a survey on the specific things straight after it happens. So let's say that we want to understand whether people that go through a specific experience had a good experience or not. I would send a survey automatically after every customer that did that kind of bit, and see if there's like what is the sentiment over there. On convenience, I must say that in the last 6 months, we're personally spending a lot of time trying to measure convenience. That is extremely hard. I'm about to lose faith. There's no one size, there's no one metric to rule them all on convenience. You will have to use a combination of customized things for the specific thing that you want, and basic things like conversion rate, which basically means if it did not convert, the product doesn't work. But that's a very low bar. And at the top, I would say getting qualitative information about whether people had an enjoyable experience or not. It's very hard, and I can't say that I haven't seen anyone that has like a very specific and good one-size-fits-all metric for convenience.
Sounds like a potential future talk around that. So I would be actually very interested to learn more about where that results into. All right, next question. How should we encourage companies to not make good but great products as product managers? Should this be a bottom-up process?
Wow, good question. First of all, as customers, we can convince them to make a great product, but not using horrible products and using and talking more about great products. I think it is done already naturally where there's competition. Inside a company, so it really depends on the culture. it's very easy in companies like Wise. It's embedded in the culture, and like this is what we are encouraged and expect to do, and encourage our product managers. When I closed Hat, many people, high amount is Hat. When we closed it, many people were alerted. The two people that told me, great, finally somebody's doing it, were the CEO and the CPO. So kind of like, I don't feel that we need to convince anyone at Wise. If you want to change that in your company, it depends how open the company is for bottom up. But I would start small and show results in a small scale, and then by showcasing that this works, increase that. But it really depends on the culture of the company. I'm sorry that I don't have any better advice on this.
Yeah, I mean, every company has its own kind of, I don't know, kind of symbiotic kind of measurement of how they actually process things. So yeah. Next question: how do you gather feedback from your users?
Oh, many ways. So there's quantitative and qualitative. I'll focus on the qualitative because I think this is what the question is about. We do a bunch of things, and it depends what we're trying to do. The basic one is NPS. Since we have 30 million customers, we have hundreds of thousands of NPS comments every month. So that's like, you read 1,000, which I do every now and then. You get a sense of where people are. Then you categorize them, and you see what was the categorization a few months ago, and you see a trend. If more people talk about verification right now, it means that they are struggling more with this. That is one thing. The other thing is talk to customers. Like, you know, it's kind of like I think every product manager should speak with customers every quarter. I would do a mix of those who are unhappy and those who are happy, and running surveys. Those are the three basically options for you to gather information. NPS is push. They tell you what to do. Survey is pull. You ask them. Survey can be quantified. So this is the biggest advantage. So you can ask a question, say, fine, 40% said that, 20% said that. If you send it to hundreds of people, you get hundreds of responses. That's probably going to be statistically significant to take decisions upon. But if you do interviews, you'll get more qualitative information, more insights. But you can't just like extrapolate from this and say, oh, I heard it from one person, then that's great, that's true. It might lead into a survey, or it might lead to a few more interviews to validate this. How much is enough is based on what we call conviction. If the PM and the team are convinced that this is the reason, and they got feedback to kind of challenge their conviction, they move forward. So like there's a chance, or there's a risk of analysis paralysis, because in qualitative research, you will never speak with everyone. So you can always do more. At some point you say, I think I understand that, and I'm happy to start building something or think of solutions, and then go back to the customers and ask for feedback again.
I like that last bit on conviction. I think it's also important to kind of also trust your gut, your hunches, and follow those, and then get to feedback. It's a really good.
Yeah, maybe one thing that I forgot, based on what you just said, there are like beta users and people that you can come back and you can test things with, and they are like ongoing people that you basically speak with them on a regular basis. They are usually your core users, so they're happy, and they will tell you things that you wouldn't see in the data because they keep using you, but they are a little bit annoyed. I think that is critical, especially for B2B, but also for B2C. This is how you understand your core users much better, and you build relationship that will help you even as design partners. So we have a few initiatives right now that we say to a few customers, hey, can you use this? And we'll build it actually based on your feedback. And they are engaged enough to do that. And that is very, very valuable.
And maybe one last question. There is one here that I don't think we'll have time for, which is important, which is how do you work on tackling the bureaucracy in the world of finance? Can you explain through the KYC example? Maybe that one, if you're going to stick, are you going to be around maybe later? Somebody can come up?
I am around for lunch, and then, yeah.
So whoever asked that question, maybe this is your opportunity. I think this is going to be longer than we have. But because you mentioned B2C and B2B, there's a question around, does word of mouth work in B2B, B2C? Like, can you elaborate on that?
So B2C is relatively simple. It's is like people recommending to friends. But remember, a transaction, when you move money, it's a two-sides transaction, right? So there'll be a sender and there'll be a recipient. You can be the sender saying to somebody, I'm going to send you through Wise. And then there's a conversation starting, or not, but a lot of time it does. And you can be a recipient saying, hey, if you want to send me, I'm on Wise, or you should use Wise because it's cheaper, right? So there's a network effect built in because you're not using the product by yourself. There must be a second party that gets or sends the money. So in word of mouth, a lot of this happens, and there's communities. So if you are a community of Israelis that live in, like we're now about to launch Wise in Israel, so I know what's going to happen because I am in the community, and once somebody will start using it, they will just talk about it and say, now we can send from Israeli shekels, and that would happen. On B2B, there is word of mouth between business owners, especially small business owners, SMBs. I have seen this happening with my own eyes, but also there is an ecosystem. So a few of our customers, our business customers, are telling us, how can we make all our employees be on Wise? It's going to be faster and easier for us to pay them. How can we bring all our suppliers on Wise, or all our customers? So there is, you can see, again, there is a two-sides transaction, but actually it's one-to-many. So if you're an employer and you pay with Wise to your employees all over the world, there is a built-in network effect. I'm not saying that we have, like, these are like basically cues for us to understand what to work on next, and to make those life of the people of those businesses easier. Employees, for example, is a classic example where we're going to double down soon.
All right, so again, Gabor, if you're around, Gadi's going to be here for lunch. Maybe you can ask your question personally. And please round of applause for Gadi.